Hi, my name is Frank King, and I want the audience to know that I'm not here voluntarily. It was part of a plea bargain. It was jail or Jeff. Tough call, but here I am.
I think you will very quickly learn that you made the wrong decision. Uh, when they said you took this, I'm like, nobody ever takes the Jeff. But you know what? I'll allow it. This is going to be a good time. Frank, the mental health comedian, is on the show. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate talking with you and getting to know you better. I think the first question that I have, and maybe my audience will have for you, is you consider yourself the mental health comedian. Tell me about that.
I I did comedy, stand-up comedy, actually, literally from the fourth grade. And at 9 years old, in fourth grade, I told a joke. Kids laughed. Teacher was hysterical. She was laughing so hard she had to excuse herself to go to the teacher's lounge. Years later, I said to her when I bumped into her at a grocery store, Mrs. Dark, why did you go to the teacher's lounge? She said, Frank, I was laughing so hard. I was afraid you would misinterpret my laughter and it would break your heart. And then she said, what are you doing now for a living? And I said, stand up comedy. And she said, duh. So, 12th grade talent show, I won. Nobody had ever done stand up before. It's 1975, spring of 75. And of course, I beat the accordion player and the folk dancers, but still, a victory is a victory.
Mm-hmm.
Got a job with an insurance company. They sent me to San Diego, which was the beginning of the end of my insurance career because there's a branch of the world famous Comedy Store in San Diego to this day in the same location. On my first open mic night, April 1st, 84, halfway through my set, I heard a voice inside my head say, "You're home." What? So 18 months later, I said to my girlfriend, now my wife of 39 years, I'm going on the road to be a comic. You want to come along for the ride? Figuring she'd go, hell no. She goes, yeah. So we gave up our apartment and our jobs and hit the road. We were on the road together for 2,629 nights in a row, nonstop. No home.
Wow.
Yeah. Opened up for Seinfeld, Foxworthy, Ron White, Adam Sandler, Rosie Ellen, Steve Harvey, Kevin James, pretty much anybody who's anybody today. And came off the road, did corporate comedy for about 10 years till the recession hit in 2008, 9, 10, and we lost everything in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. That's when I learned what the barrel of my gun tasted like, literally. I say to the audience, spoiler alert, I did not pull the trigger.
Oh, well, thank you for letting me
Yes.
know that.
Yeah, they laugh, and I go, no, it's okay. It's okay to laugh. That was the point. So I always want to make a difference, rather than just make 45 minutes of endorphins for the audience. So, Jeff, I wanted to be a speaker. Problem was, I had no idea what I had to teach anybody. Because if you're going to speak, meeting planner, they want you to make sure you're going to give the audience something, some kind of ROI for spending an hour with you and paying you that kind of money. So a friend of mine wrote a book. Judy Carter is her name. Judy Carter. She wrote a book called The Message of You, Turn Your Life into a Money-Making Speaking Career. She said, Frank, get the audiobook, listen to it, you'll figure it out. So I went into it thinking I got nothing. And about halfway through, I thought, oh, yes, I do. I mean, given that there are more nuts in my family than in a squirrel turd, that I'm a 4-time suicide loss survivor, 1-time suicide attempt survivor, have 2 mental illnesses. I thought I could keynote on suicide prevention if I got some training, which I did. And then I thought, yeah, but who's going to take me seriously after 2.5 decades of comedy? My wife suggested do a TEDx talk. So I just happened to get an application that week from one in Canada, filled it out, applied, got the audition, got the talk, proving to everybody that, I could do something serious with humor. So that's how I became the mental health comedian.
That's quite the story. So, I want to ask you, as somebody who obviously is a mental health advocate, somebody who goes on the road, it sounds like, and does a lot of
Yeah.
speeches and talks, and you can obviously book Frank if you're interested. Go to mentalhealthcomedian.com. We call that a plug in the business. But Frank, I mean, when you started really kind of getting in, like obviously changing from just doing stand up to now doing what you're doing. speaking in front of large audiences, just kind of about mental health. And obviously, I know you're probably still working in a lot of your comedic background, but like, what was the biggest difference and hardest thing to get used to, kind of going from stand up to kind of the messages that you're trying to tell in your speeches now?
Good question. As a comic, I was getting a laugh, a giggle, a chuckle, something every 9 to 12 seconds. With speaking, there are long periods where they're making no noise whatsoever. They're paying attention. They're all eyes forward. They're enjoying what you're, telling them. They're learning, but it was unnerving. Those long silences. It took me about a year to get used to that because, I drop in a little humor here and then there, just kind of salt and pepper it in there. Reason being, very difficult topic. And if you have to tell somebody that's difficult like that, tell the audience something, and you, after that, give them a little comic relief, their brain is much better prepared for the next piece of serious business. So, and it's one of the reasons I get booked oftentimes over other speakers is I've got the lived experience, I've got the teaching, the learning objectives, takeaways, and I can leaven that with a little well-placed, organic, funny anecdotes. In my first TEDx, my first piece of humor was I did some research on TEDx to see how other people handle the topic of suicide prevention or suicide. Figuring there'd be 2-3 dozen talks on suicide. Turns out there are only 3.
Wow.
I said to the audience, then it hit me. Well, duh. If you're really good at suicide, you're probably not going to be recording a TEDx talk.
That's a great call.
Yeah, they laughed again, nervous. They go, "No, it's okay to laugh. That was the point." So yeah, it's there's a rule in comedy. You can make fun of any group to which you belong. So having mental illness, being a suicide attempt survivor, lost survivor, and so forth, I can make fun of those things. I don't joke about it, but I do have lots of funny personal anecdotes.
Yeah. That's awesome. So for you, how many TEDx's TED Talks have you done now?
I've done 13. I'm doing number 14 on July 4th.
Oh wow. Okay. Very cool. So obviously they're all different. So if somebody
Mhm.
were to tune in to your TED Talk, what could they expect?
They're each one has the same origin story. I mean, I can't change my origin story.
Right.
Uh, the
Unless
each
you're
one has a
bipolar.
yeah,
Sorry.
each one has a different aspect of mental health, mental illness, suicide prevention. The one I'm doing on the 4th of July is called Mental Health and the Orgasm: Treat Your Depression Single-Handedly.
I love that too much. I love that too much.
Yeah, the idea being that, self-pleasure, or with someone, orgasm is good for your body. It raises DHEA levels, lowers cortisol. It's like a lymphatic massage your entire body, and there's some science in there. Um, there's a study that says men who self-pleasure at least 21 times a month have a 20% lower rate of prostate cancer. And I'm going to say to the audience, if 21 is the threshold, then at this point in time, I'm immortal.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I heard something earlier today, actually, in this a realm of basically, in order if you're going into something where you're nervous and and it kind of reminded me of there's something about Mary, like something to like kind of like calm yourself down.
Mhm.
Apparently, most people say, and doctors will tell you that just a little self pleasure before your big event will be the thing that helps you kind of calm those nerves and be ready for whatever this event is.
Yes. And I say to the audience, do you remember when you discovered this little one-piece home entertainment center? Were you like
Yep.
me, first time it went off and thought, wow, what was that? Second thought, how do I make that happen again? Yeah. And
My third thought was, oh God, I got to go clean my sheets.
yes, I'm a member of the Mile High Club. I was by myself in the restroom, so it's an individual membership, but um,
Of course. So okay, one more thing I want to ask you before we get into our random topic, which I'm excited to wrap with you on. You have developed something called the Digital Speaker Agent over at digitalspeakeragent.com. Tell me about that.
that is something a friend of mine created.
Okay.
He wanted to be a speaker forever, And when he got in the speaking business, he realized that his real job is not speaking. Speaking is the fun part. The real job is sales and marketing. I coach speakers. I go, look, you're not a speaker who sells and markets. You're a sales and marketing person who speaks. You've got to market yourself.
Mhm.
And he found it to be a grind, finding the conference and just discovering if they're accepting applications and are they looking for a speaker on his topic. So he thought there's got to be a better way in this digital world. So he actually created Digital Speaker Agent. It's a little bit of AI, but it's also a lot of Python coded, so it
Okay.
doesn't hallucinate. And what it does is it goes out 24/7, 365 and looks for conferences. In my case, conferences that are looking for a suicide prevention speaker, just a suicide prevention speaker. And if they find it, it appears on my dashboard 1 to 5 leads a day, weekdays. And if I click accept, then it creates all the assets to apply. And if I click take me to the submission form, and then I click autofill, it fills out about 85% of the form. I fill in the blanks it didn't, and off it goes. So what used to take before AI, an hour and 15 minutes to customize each pitch to each event client, takes somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. You could probably knock out 5 of these in an hour.
Wow.
So yeah, it takes a lot of the grind and admin work off your plate. And because I think you should be applying 1 to 5 times a day because it's a bit of a numbers game to get booked at conferences.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the way to do it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Again, digitalspeakeragent.com. And yeah, and I'm with you. I have a friend that's a traveling comedian as well. And he's told me that the job is not getting up and speaking to people, it's finding work. So this
Yeah.
kind of thing seems like something that would be a no-brainer for someone in your industry.
Yes. And I worked with Seinfeld one week, and he said, telling jokes is not your job. Writing jokes is really your job. The telling of
Yeah.
it's just the fun part. Just get up there and and fire away.
That makes total sense. That's well, and we all know, Jerry Seinfeld, seeing the stuff that he comes up with, it's like, yeah, you can tell that he perfects his craft. It reminds me of his episode when when he wakes up in the middle of the night and he sees the commercial and he's like, "Oh yeah, I need to, I'm going to write that one down." And then he wrote it down and he couldn't remember any of the context. And he's like, "What is this funny to you? Why is this funny?" And it wasn't until the end of the episode he finally saw the commercial again that reminded him. And it was like, and then he goes, "That wasn't funny."
Well, and when I worked with him, his work ethic was um, beyond belief. He did 7 shows that week at the comedy club, and not one joke was the same. 7 45-minute sets.
Wow.
That's gargantuan.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, you hear these stories about these comics, especially in like New York and LA, just showing up at comedy clubs and just doing it like, I'm gonna jump on and do a stand-up and try out some new jokes. And you totally get why they have to do that.
yes, and he was the comics used to joke that you go to the store, you work with Seinfeld, you guys go after the gig, you go to the store. You get loaf of bread, jar of peanut butter, quart of milk. Seinfeld gets 3 minutes of material.
Yep.
Why is it? Who are these people? Uh, by the way, I put a link in the private chat to it's my link for the digital speaker agent,
Okay.
so that I get a little spiff if someone signs up.
Yeah, so if anyone's interested, and I'll drop the link in with this show as well, but digitalspeakeragent.com/ the mental health comedian. So type that into your search bars if you're interested in the digital speaker agent. And yes, let's help out our friend Frank, because that is a really cool service, and definitely, I'm sure in your industry, again, something that is just a no-brainer at this point in
Yeah,
2026.
and industry leading. Now, there are other AI tools that do something similar, but none of them go out and search for conferences looking for your topic.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, Frank, you mentioned Python coding, which I never thought would come up with a mental health comedian, but it did. And that is what we do here on the Pondcast. This is the random generator you can see. Our audience cannot see, but you do. So that way, I'm not cheating you. So at the bottom there, it says press enter to spin. And we are going to get our topic now. Bad bosses. Oh boy. I'm sure got some stuff I could tell about that. Bad bosses. Frank, have you ever been a bad boss?
I've never had anybody to boss, so that would be no.
Okay. How,
I've,
how
I've-
about how about having a bad boss? I'm sure
yeah,
you've had a couple of those in your lifetime.
I have. I discovered not early on, but I discovered all along the way that there's a difference between a leader and a manager or boss. Leaders are few and far between. Manager slash boss are like pigeons; they're everywhere and they shit on everything.
Yes.
So
I'll tell you, my last company I was with, I was there about 4 to 5 years, and I had the best manager I have ever had in my life. Just an unbelievable guy that was always there and always trying to mentor, and we always had our weekly meetings, and he always brought something that he could try to help me grow and learn, and he always told me that his goal was one day for me to obviously take his role, which to me is a very good boss. And
mhm.
it was funny because all the time, and I just say this, commonly in the workplace, I would jump on a call with him the first couple times I met with him, and I'd say, "What's up, boss?" And like the third or fourth time, and I always kind of saw him make this kind of funny face, and then like the third or fourth time, he just goes, "Jeff, can you stop calling me that?" And I was like, why? And he's like, I don't like that word. That's a ridiculous word. It's got negative connotations. I hope I'm not that's not the type of person I am. So, me being me, I'm like, well, he hates it. So of course I'm gonna call him that. So every single time we had there was one time I didn't introduce him for a presentation, and I'm like, and here's my boss. And I could see him just grunt under his breath, and he's like, oh, but I'm like, you shouldn't have told me that, buddy. Just
Yeah.
call me this instead. And I would have done that. But you said you hate the word. I got to use it.
Well, I worked at a radio station for a while. Actually, I worked at a radio station as a DJ sidekick in the mid 90s.
Okay.
18 months. Took a #1 show and drove it to #6 in 18 months.
Oh, well, that's impressive.
Yeah, a friend of mine goes, "You didn't drive it in the ground; you drove that in the Middle Earth." Yes, I did. But the guy was the manager, was a great leader, and years later, he asked me to help him start a comedy club in Raleigh, which is where the radio station was. So I went to work for the radio station group. It was called Curtis Media, one of the largest privately owned radio groups in the country, 35 stations. And I noticed, and the owner was in his 70s. And I noticed right away that none of the shows had a stream online. And they had the #1 morning show in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill Triangle area, a country station, #1. And there was no, simulcast online. And the reason I noticed it was one of the winners of the what's one of those voice singing competition shows.
Reality show like American Idol,
Yeah,
things like that.
strictly a singing. Anyway, the winner walked by my desk with his guitar, and he went in there and he played a couple songs. And so I went in after him after he left, and I said, "Listen, can I get the video of that?" "Oh, we don't have any video." "I'm sorry, what? You had the winner of American Idol in here, and you don't have any of it on video? You don't have, excuse me, 35 stations, no video streams."
Wow.
And I just was, I was like, okay. And he was just old school. When they, they actually got UNC Chapel Hill football.com or something, some crazy, should not have been available. And the way they announced they had picked up a website and the ability to stream UNC Chapel Hill football games, they sent postcards out.
Oh,
Yeah, so I kept after him and after him. I did it to the point where I was going to go to a Ford dealership and Richard Petty was going to be there signing autographs. In North Carolina, he's like God.
oh yeah.
The line was around the dealership. So I had a friend of mine who has a company, and he got his videographer to come with me. And so we filmed the line, and we actually got to talk to Richard Petty and film that. And that's the kind of thing that the dealership could use pieces of in their commercials.
Hmm.
Nobody was impressed. No use for it. So I brought video up so often that every week at the end of the week, we'd have a meeting, sit around a table, and the boss, not Don Curtis, but my direct supervisor, would say, and people made fun of me because I would raise my hand. They go, "Oh, don't tell me, video." So
And we wonder why radio's dying.
yeah, I'd had enough of that. So when they're going around the table, "What'd you learn this week?" I waited till last. "Frank, what'd you learn this week?" I said, "You know what I learned this week? If somebody wants my opinion, they're gonna have to beat it out of me." So I was tired of getting shot down every time but can you imagine 35 stations, and you can sell ads on the video stream as well as on the broadcast. I mean, it just was like, yeah.
That's nuts. Yeah, and you look at where we are nowadays, and it's like, can you imagine? I mean, the companies that went ahead with video that were one of the first ones. Like, there's a local radio station out here, 105.7 The Point in St. Louis. Listen to them every day. I remember them doing video streams in like 2000, 2001, and nobody else here was doing it. And guess what? There's probably two stations left that have been around that long, and they're one of them
Yeah.
because they got ahead of the curve. And it's so funny that old media, and you're seeing it now in print too. These companies that just don't want to move into the new future, and they're getting left behind. And I think we've seen it now in the last probably 20 years, and we've faster than we've ever seen it.
Yeah, Netflix came along, and Blockbuster Blockbuster was a direct competitor,
Yep.
and Blockbuster froze in place for 90 days while Netflix took over the world. I
Yep.
mean, Blockbuster could have easily gone to, well, you can come in the store and get it, we'll mail it to you, or you can stream it. But they just froze. And by the time they thawed out, they were done.
Yep.
So,
That's unfortunate. Because yeah, we were big Blockbuster fans growing up, and I remember when the last Blockbuster in my area closed down. It was like there was like a grieving moment for me. 'Cause it was like, man, I remember just my childhood was spent going into Blockbuster on Friday, renting a video game, renting a couple movies, coming home and doing that all weekend, and then coming back on Sunday and returning them, or sometimes Monday and getting the late fee. But yeah, for me, it's just you see the old relics of the past like that. And I think there's still one Blockbuster somewhere out there. But yeah, it's unfortunate to see what happened to companies like that just because they wouldn't advance.
yeah, and they made millions on late fees. That was a
Yes, they
revenue
did.
stream for them.
Yes, it
So,
was.
be kind,
And I
rewind.
I think my mom and dad contributed about half of that. So
Yeah.
uh, so more about kind of horrible bosses. Not the movie, that is, although that's a great movie too. But yeah, bad bosses. I've got a pretty funny one, I guess. So looking back, wasn't funny at the time, but back in my college years, and I was working in the retail game. I remember we had a manager, and I still remember the first time I met him. I was introduced like, "Oh, this is I'll just say his name was Mark." They're like, "Oh yeah, here's Mark. He's in charge of all sales and video game sales, and so you'll be working closely with Mark." And he just kind of shook my hand and just said hi and then walked away. And I thought that was odd. Like, I was going to actually have a conversation with this guy, but he clearly wanted to cut it short. Came to find out pretty quickly, he did not deal, I use air quotes, with the store staff. He only talked with the managers. And I thought, okay, next time I see him like in the break room, I'm just going to come next to him and just talk to him, because that's how I am. I'm an extrovert, just get to know people. So I literally sat down and I said, "Hey, Mark, by the way, I'm Jeff. I just started. I just wanted to pick your brain about the position and, what you do here." And he was just very short, one word answers. I got a notification from my boss, an email shortly after, and he was just like, "Hey, Mark did not like you talking to him." And I thought, this guy is in charge of like 40 of us in this store. Like, he can't even talk to us. And it was like every bit of feedback he gave would go to our manager, and then the manager would give it to us. And I just thought, I get wanting to follow like a chain of command, but at the same
Mhm.
time, it's like, how can you expect me to really respect you if you won't even like say hi or talk to me throughout the day?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, I was in college and I was working in a bar. North Carolina back then was there was no liquor by the drink, no booze, just beer, a beer bar, and the guy who owned it, I guess, and built it, it was nuts. Just Smoot was his last name. It was his wife's money, and I guess they own this corner right directly across from the North Carolina State Bell Tower. I mean, it's perfectly situated.
Hmm.
And so he built this bar complex, his dream about this bar complex. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 bars, and each one had a different theme. One was beach music, one was disco, and part of the problem was he didn't really believe in building permits. So he threw this thing up. He actually put a swimming pool, behind one of the bars, and there was a deck above the bar, the bar was here and there's a deck above the bar, and of course the swimming pool's there. So you can see what's about to happen. So I'm looking out toward the pool and people are dropping off off the deck. And the walkway around the pool was like this wide. You have to have
Oh,
if you're gonna put a pool in, you have to have there's a distance you're supposed anyway. Uh, he one night said to me, pick up all the cigarette butts in the bar. And I said, "Okay." So I went to
oh,
get I got a broom and a dustpan, and he got irate. He said, "I didn't tell you to get a broom and a dustpan. I said to pick up the cig." I go, "It'd be a lot easier and faster if I use a broom." And he went nuts. And the final straw was somebody was in the men's bathroom and the door was locked and people were complaining because they wanted to go to the bathroom. So he knocked on the door and nothing, knocked on the door and nothing. So maybe somebody's in there passed out. So he got his pass key, he opened the door and pulled a 38 caliber revolver out of his pocket and shoved it up the nose of the guy who was in the bathroom.
oh my God.
Yeah, I'm waiting to be splattered by brains at this point.
Oh,
So, yeah. I said, "Look, I'm done. I am done." Uh,
wow.
yeah,
That
fortunately go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that is an insane story. I don't know what I would do if my boss pulled a gun on somebody.
Well, and as luck would have it, he didn't make any money. The bars didn't do very well at all. So
No.
he had to, he had to divest himself or rent out the bars. And one of them, what was a disco bar, was, taken over by a bar called Crazy Zach's. And, it's directly across from the bell tower
Mhm.
at State, and there's something called Carolina beach music. The Drifters, the Tams, the Four Tops, you know, and they made it a beach bar, a beach music bar, which is perfect for the frats and so forth at North Carolina State. I mean, the place was jammed. And, so they all wanted to talk to me when I got the job. "Well, tell us about Smoot and how this," I go, "Well, therein lies the tale." I worked there as a doorman for even though I was going to school in Chapel Hill, I worked there. I lived in Raleigh. My mom lived in Raleigh. I was living in Chapel Hill, but I drove home every weekend to work there. It was a blast. It was fun working the Carolina Beach Bar.
Oh, I bet. I've been to Myrtle Beach a couple times,
Yep.
and I could tell those people that work in those beach bars just have a great time. And I'm sure the repeat business is not normal. It's probably a lot of touristy type
Mhm.
people, but you got to have fun when you're working at a beach bar.
Yeah, it was great. And I was in a fraternity in Chapel Hill. These are mostly fraternity and sorority people, and some of the young people in town who were still in high school tried to sneak in, but I'm from there, So a young woman brought up an ID one night, didn't look a lot like her, and the woman on the ID, her last name was Zavenhausen. So I said, okay, Katie, spell your last name. Z. Yeah. Or I would say, what's your astrological sign? Oh, I don't pay attention to that. I know, but even if you don't pay attention, you know
You
your
do know it.
astrological. Yeah, exactly.
That reminds me of a funny story that just happened with my niece. She is 19, turning 20 in September, and she's away at college. She goes to Mizzou out here in Missouri, and
Yep.
but yeah, she was over visiting with us, and she was in the kitchen getting something ready, and I made a comment about something about. Oh, I can't wait to take you out for your 21st birthday. But if you have your fake ID ready, I'll take you out anytime now. And she kind of gave me a funny look, and her mom goes, yeah. So my sister, she's like, so let me see your fake ID. And she just froze. She said nothing. And I was like, you have a fake ID. And she goes, uh, d- no. And I'm like, you just gave yourself away. Like, all you had to do was just say, I don't have a fake ID. And we would have not even thought about it. The fact that you froze and didn't say anything, you've got a fake ID. And my sister's like, I want to be mad at you, but I did kind of trick you. And I'm like, no, you should be mad at her. Like she should have known better. She should lie better.
Yeah, no kidding.
Did you have a fake ID as a young man, Frank?
Yeah, there was a place you could send off to get a North Carolina ID, and it came, in what where they laminated.
Yep.
It looked pretty official, and it got me
Yep.
in a couple of places, but it was not North Carolina ID. Uh,
That's
but
the way
yeah,
to do it. You get an out of state ID.
yes.
Yep.
That's a much better idea. That's a much better idea. Well, and the guys that ran the bar, I loved them dearly. They were all fraternity brothers, same fraternity,
Mhm.
and the father of one. And he was also crazy. And there was a scuffle one night, and they were going to throw a guy out. And so one of the bouncers grabbed the guy around the waist and picked him up. And the old man, they called him the old man, grabbed him around the chest. And so now the guy is parallel to the floor. And the old man's running his head into the right in front of me.
Oh boy.
Just crazy.
Wow. Yeah, bar scuffle. I've only been in one of those, and not in, but like in the middle of and seen it. And that gets a little scary. You get a bunch of drug people around you and they're all fighting. That's nothing I ever want to be a part of.
No, especially when they're sort of selling long necks. 'Cause,
Yes. Very true. So Frank, so are you still in the South Carolina area?
no, we live in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay. Oh, wow. So you went really far away. Did you grow up most of your time in South Carolina?
North Carolina, actually.
North Carolina.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes, I grew up at school in Raleigh, then college in Chapel Hill, and my relatives are always asking me, "When you gonna move back?" Well, when you solve this mosquito and humidity problem, I'll be back. 'Cause
Oh, do you guys do they get cicadas up in Carolina too?
yeah, and I knew of cicadas, but one summer I was visiting my aunt in Nashville, and it must have been the 17th year because they all came out of the ground, and I mean the sound is deafening. I couldn't talk on my cell phone for the noise the cicadas were making.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was funny. I got a friend that lives in LA, and so he doesn't know anything about seasons, lived there his whole life. I mentioned snow, and he just gets like a crazy, like, well, how can you even drive in that? Yeah, it literally snowed a half an inch. I'm okay. But yeah, and so cicadas come out. I think it's what, every 13 and 17 years.
Mhm.
And we had one, gosh, that was probably back in 2009, 2010, where the years crossed up. So you got a massive amount of cicadas coming out, like once in a lifetime type of thing. And so it was nuts. And we went out to LA that year, and I was telling him about it. And he's like, so wait, there are these bugs that just come out of the ground how do they know when it's been 13 years? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer that question, but they do. And he was just so bewildered by the fact that like we have these bugs that aren't just little tiny bugs. They're these giant things. They're loud. And
Yep.
so when I got home, he called me like right around my time. It was about 6, 7 o'clock. And he's like, "This is the loudest when they are, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Take your phone outside and hold it up. I want to hear them." I'm like, I don't even think I need to go outside for you to hear them. They're so freaking loud.
Yeah, it was impressive. I'd never experienced it, nor since have I. But, yeah, I was, and it almost sounds like a myth. Yeah, they come out of the ground once every 17 years. Oh, sure they do.
Yeah, right. That's true. We had them. I think it was last year. They came out for the 17th year, I think, or no, I guess it was the 13th year, and yeah, and it was. I mean, the minute summer hit, well, not even summer, spring, it was just kind of like, oh boy, like right away, like it'd be about 5 o'clock, and you could hear them just going nuts in like March, and it's like, oh boy, it's gonna be one of those summers.
Yep.
So, what do you miss most about living in North Carolina, if anything?
The racism.
Wonderful.
Yeah, there are still I tell people there's still pockets of resistance in North Carolina. The war of northern aggression.
Yep.
Um, yeah, my job when I go home at Thanksgiving is to go out in the backyard and dig up the silverware, which most young people have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you're of a certain age, you know that that's what the Southerners did when the Yankees were coming through, is bury the valuables in the backyard.
Yep.
And then I say, look, my grandmother holds a grudge. She still won't ride in a Lincoln.
Yep.
No, spring and fall in North Carolina is beautiful.
Yep.
The fall is gorgeous football weather. In the spring, everything bursts into bloom. But winter's icy and cold, and summer is hotter than the hinges of hell,
Yes.
as my mother would say.
Yep. Same for me. I noticed that when again in Myrtle Beach, we went in Charlotte and then we went to Myrtle Beach, and both places like we got outside and it was that southern type of hot that you only know if you've been in the area. And I remember just thinking like, whoo, like St. Louis gets pretty hot too. But I think we went when they said it was like a record high. And I'm like, of course it's a record high when we're visiting on vacation.
Yeah, and when I grew up, there were years before air conditioning was a big thing. I don't know how we got by, but
Yeah.
I went when I went to college. I stayed in the dorm called Airing House. Airing House was probably a politician from way back when. And no, there's only one dorm on campus, had been built recently, that had air conditioning. The rest of them, and I called my mother second day I was there, I go, "Look, you get me a window fan, a box fan, or I'm dropping out." Because, I mean, it was just miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, craziest thing for me. So, we lived in Dallas for a short period. Beautiful, beautiful part of the U.S. But, I learned very quickly they do not have insulation in a lot of their houses and apartments. Yeah, you're making a look like I made when I found that out, because I guess they just figure, oh, when it's hot, the insulation it still does its job, but it's a lot more important when it gets super cold. Well, of course, the 1 year that I lived down there, literally was down there for 10 months. It was the coldest on record Dallas was in, I think they said like 85 years or something. So everybody told me living in St. Louis, they're like, Ponder, you need to move back up there because you brought the cold with you. And so I'm not kidding. There was one night where it was, I want to say it was in November. It was 85 during the day, and overnight it dropped to 20 degrees. And
Whoa.
without insulation, and we were dumb kids at that point. We were 24 and 22, and we had a newborn child, and we did not realize, like, oh yeah, we should probably prep and make sure that the heat is on, because we went to bed, it was still 60 degrees. And so, yeah, we literally woke up middle of the night, kids screaming, and we could see our breath when we got up. And I was like, uh-oh, like, oops. And so we went and grabbed the baby. We cranked the heat up, grabbed him, and we put him in bed. And we all three just cuddled together. And we're kind of like a City Slickers moment where it was just like, we got to find warmth somehow. And luckily the heat kicked on good. But yeah, it was crazy to me. Like if you didn't have your heat on and it was a 30-degree day, you'd come home and it was 30 degrees inside. Like it was nuts. I don't know how people live like that.
I nor do I.
Yeah. It's crazy. So I got to ask you as a man, I don't know if you can tell from behind me, I'm kind of a hockey fan.
Oh,
I don't know if you're a hockey guy at all, but if you are, congratulations to probably who is your hockey team that just
well,
won.
being from North Carolina, not that I follow hockey, but the Hurricanes.
Yeah. Big win. That was very exciting. So I know there are some Caniacs now in the Carolinas and 2 Stanley Cups in their time now, and very exciting. I'm sure for people that you grew up around and your family that's still there.
You know what was when I was working in Raleigh at the radio station in the mid '90s. One of the advertisers was a local hockey team. I don't know. I can't. Like AAA baseball. I don't know how they grade hockey teams, but they were somewhere between single A and AAA,
Yeah.
and it was great. It was at Dorton Arena, which is a modernist building they call the Cow Palace,
Mm-hmm.
but you could pull up and park not far away. Tickets were like $5 to sit down practically on the ice. I mean, it was just a great family thing to do because it wasn't terribly expensive to get in, and the concessions weren't terribly expensive, and the parking was easy. And so I'd never been to a hockey game.
Yeah.
I
They're
thoroughly
exciting.
enjoyed the experience.
Yep. You're in a little bit more of hockey country now up in Oregon. So not as much, but it's around you. You're closer to Canada, so that's probably is why.
I remember going to Phoenix. So my girlfriend from high school moved to Phoenix with her family, Scottsdale. And I was out there visiting. I walked into a sporting goods store, and first thing I see is a hockey outfit. Now it's 110 outside. I'm like, what?
Yeah, who's buying this today?
But apparently there are skating rinks everywhere.
Yep.
So there's a very lively, a hockey culture out there.
I think most of it's just to get out of the warmth and find somewhere that's a little chilly. Frank, this has been a lot of fun having you on. I wanted to give you a couple of minutes here. First of all, if you're on social media or anyone can get in touch with you that might want to get in touch with you, Frank King, the mental health comedian, please let us know how people can find you.
Yeah, mentalhealthcomedian.com. If you go to LinkedIn, put in Frank King Comedian, you'll find me, as you will on all the socials. But yeah, mentalhealthcomedian.com. My phone number's there. My real phone number's there, and an email address. So
Very cool. And then I did want to close actually. We've had a lot of fun today, but obviously, as you know better than anyone, there are people out there who are struggling and especially now with the times with how uh, prices have gone up and daycare costs and unemployment, and it just seems like things are just spiraling for a lot of people. So kind of a blanket question here for you, but for someone who's kind of struggling with how things are going and kind of looking to get out of their funk and whatever they're going through right now. Wanted to give you an opportunity to say something kind of encouraging to people who might be struggling in their lives right now.
yes, well, we finally got the 3-digit suicide prevention hotline and text line 988. And I would say, listen, don't wait till you're standing on the ledge of the building and about to jump to call 988. They'd
That's true.
like to hear from you a little before that.
Yep.
Also, there's something called National Alliance Mental Illness, NAMI, and there's a chapter in pretty much every county in the country, and all of their services are free. As a matter of fact, one of my friends here in town had a son schizoaffective disorder, and it was destroying the family. And he heard about NAMI, and they have a 12-week course for families where someone is suffering from schizoaffective disorder or depression or whatever. And it's once a week for an hour or two, and they have family-to-family counseling, so you're not alone. And again, it's free. It saved his marriage. It saved his family. And his kid's still alive. So
That's
those two
great.
things, 988 and then NAMI. And if you're living with depression or think you are, first I'd get a physical. Sometimes physical ailments present as mental health issues. Just get an overall physical. See if it's organic. And if it's not, then get a mental health checkup. Just an evaluation. What, am I depressed because I got depression, or is it the depressive state of bipolar, or what the hell's wrong with me? So an evaluation, I would say, if you're struggling.
Okay, awesome. Well, Frank, thank you very much again for coming on the show. Loved having you. Loved getting to learn more about you. And again, folks, check out mentalhealthcomedian.com. That is Frank King. Thank you very much, Frank.
My pleasure, Jeff.
The Pondcast, conversations that go nowhere. Produced by Jeff Ponder. Executive produced by Jeff Ponder. Music by Loud C. Smith. Talent booking by Jeff Ponder. Engineering and mixing by Jeff Ponder. A special thanks goes out to Bruce Valanche. Remember to rate and review the Pondcast, Conversations That Go Nowhere, just because you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you can get some heaven points by rating and reviewing. It's a win-win. Follow the Pondcast on all social media channels with the profile handle @PondcastConvos. Thanks for listening.